Hello, hello. I'm back with the last series for today. This is the Kokuton series. These are the brushes with the ebony handles. So if the S series is their flagship line, this is their luxury line. So you have these heavy, weighty, fantastic feeling ebony wood handles. They're polished and covered with a little bit of lacquer, and they have the logo in Japanese kanji engraved in. So let's start with the Kanoko brushes. So we have a large, a medium, and a small. The large one is supposed to be used for powder, the medium one for blush, and the small one for blush/highlight. So bronzer plus powder for the big one, and these are super dense big monsters. So like I'm pressing quite hard, and that's as much as it spreads. And these have fantastic coverage. They're a little dense, like I said, so if you're using this to apply setting powder, you might apply too much. Conversely, if you're trying to use it as a finishing brush, you might accidentally end up wiping away product. So if you're applying bronzer with it, though, it's going to blend out like a dream. So there's this handle, and then there's this handle. So one of them's small or rounder, and the other one's sort of squatter and wider. As far as I can tell, and as far as everybody here knows, they're pretty much the same. Same price, same everything, same head on a different handle, so it just comes down to which one you prefer. Ergonomically, I do like the round one a little bit better. The medium one would be a very large blush brush if that's what you're using it for. Otherwise, it's a good setting powder brush. Well, setting powder if you like the applying it for baking kind of like with a sponge because it is so dense. You might be able to apply powder foundation with this. I personally don't think it's as good for that because of that whole round surface. If it was a little bit flatter, it'd be good for powder foundation because of the density. And the length is just right for that. And then the small one is a cute little blush/highlight brush, and it's really nice. I have this in the white maple. So all of these brushes here are goat and synthetic blend. It feels super soft, and if you haven't seen my video on the HakuhodoUSA synthetic brushes, I do highly recommend checking that out because their synthetic is pretty good. And then a brush from their normal line to compare to. This is the closest one I can find, and I'm still not satisfied with this as a dupe because the density of this one does not match the Kanoko's. This one's much more squeezable, this one much less so. So superficially, they look about the same size, and they're both made of goat and synthetic hair, but functionally, there really are no dupes for the Kanokos. The only dupe would be the same brush head on a different handle. The sort of beigey hard maple or white maple Kanokos. Let's talk about the fan brush. The fan brush for the Hakuhodo Kokuton is gray squirrel and goat. If you don't want to pay the premium for the Kokuton handle, you can get it in the regular handle, so $195 versus $132. How much do you want the handle? Otherwise, they're exactly the same. So what the fan brush is good for is finishing, as well as patting on powder, bronzer. You could use it for highlight, blush. Like this is a fantastic all-in-one brush. Whenever I travel, I bring my goat-haired one, and in whatever function I need it to fill other than eyeshadow, the fan brush is great at tackling it. And then it also comes in and the one I have is the pure goat one, but it feels pretty different from the goat squirrel one. Like this is much softer, much more flexible, and really pleasant feeling. This one's like, yeah, it's a goat brush. It's a nice goat brush. And then they're pretty much the same. This one does have a sharper of a taper because it doesn't fluff up as much as the goat one does. So you can really use this for highlight. With this one, I can like kind of get away with it for highlight, but not really as much as it is for blush. So if you're looking for a cheaper version and you want the all-in-one brush pretty much, it exists in the regular handle as well. Now let's get down to the meat of the series. This is the Kokuton powder MG. This is goat and synthetic blended together. And what the synthetic allows is for it to keep this beautiful shape, this diamond taper. Otherwise, it'd be more puffed out. So similarly between how these two are made in the same mold, but the goat puffs out more, so you kind of lose that diamond taper a bit. What blending synthetic in does is it allows it to keep that diamond taper more. Otherwise, it'd be much more like domed out and rounded of a tip. So this one is we call it a medium-sized powder brush, straight on with what they labeled it, MG. You can use it this way for a lot of coverage, or you can use it this way for more medium coverage. So you really could use this for powder, bronzer, or blush. The dupe I have pulled for this one, or dupes, I've found two, is the J0302 and the G5535. So the G5535 is made of goat, and then the J0302 is made of goat and synthetic, I believe. Let me check that real quick. Yeah, I was right. The J3020 is a blend of goat and synthetic, and then the G5535 itself is just goat. So the closest dupe for the Kokoutan would be the J0302 because they're both a goat and synthetic blend. And then the G5535 is ever so slightly different, as you can see, but they're all pretty close. So it just depends on, are you okay with it being less resilient? Because the goat, as you can see, is more flexible. This one feels a little bit more firm, a little bit more plush, and a little bit more luxurious. This one's just like quite floppy, so I know some people would not be thrilled with that. Something to note. Next up, we have the Kokuton Cheek SG. This is their small size, and this is how it looks. Medium spread, medium density, a little bit more on the firm medium density, and then of course you can use it for blush like this, or like this. This one, again, has a little bit of that diamond taper thanks to the synthetic blended in. You can't really use it for highlight. You could, but I wouldn't. I would just choose other brushes for highlight. And it's pretty much duped in the Masako Portable Kokuton Powder / Cheek. So if you want a small version for traveling, there's a small one. As far as the cheek brushes that dupe it go, the S110 is pretty close. The difference between the 110 in the Kokoutan is this one is pure goat, this one is goat and synthetic. So this one will feel a little bit more firm, a little bit more like a puff, and this one just feels like a brush. So if you want to pat powder on, this is a good one. If you want to pat powder on, I don't really recommend the 110 for patting powder. They're both great for blush, but because of that like a little bit of extra firmness from the synthetic blended in, it really is better for patting on stuff and then buffing it out. Next up, we have the Kokoutan Portable Highlight. And it's pretty much duped in the 113 model. This is goat and synthetic, this is goat. So again, you have more flexibility here, and you have a little more resilience and firmness here. Otherwise, shape-wise, they're pretty much the same. Very narrow diamond point, small to medium coverage, good for patting. Both are good for patting powder under the eyes because this one is pinched to be firm enough to pat powder around. And yeah, good detailed cheek brushes of applying a bit of contour, highlight, and then because of that tip, you can get it down the nose and into this socket here as well. I guess that was also a review for the 113. Up next, we have the Squirrel blended with synthetics. This is the Kokoutan Cheek S. So this one is on par with the goat brush. So there's a little bit of a difference. I wouldn't say it's even 3 millimeters. As you can see, just a tiny bit of a difference in length. Otherwise, they are pretty much the same size. The Squirrel, of course, is softer, is more flexible, and this one could work as a small finishing brush if you really wanted to. So like use it to like blend areas together. And it's duped by the KO20, slightly thinner, and this one is pure gray Squirrel. As you can see, same diamond taper, pretty much the same size. This one just splays a bit more because it does have more bristles packed into the ferrule. More flexibility, a little less so, but quite comparable. This is the KO20. And then if this isn't firm enough for your needs, there's the B505. This is Goat and Squirrel blend. It is a more, I guess, extreme version. It's thicker and just more firm and like bouncy. This one is really good for packing and flicking away stuff. Blush, really good for that as well because it just feels so nice being patted on your skin and blending everything out. And then it also does have the tip for highlight, just like this does. I couldn't find a dupe for this one. This is a Kokoutan Eyeshadow L. If you've been watching my videos, you know I love to use this one for contour. It's down here, up here, and it's just overall a good face detail brush, even though it's labeled as an eyeshadow brush. There really is no dupe for this in any other hair here. And the closest one I can think of is a brand called Evgeny. They have the Polina cheek brush. And it was from looking at that inspired me, hey, I can use this for blush too. For me, it's a little too small for blush, so I use mine for highlight. Then we have the Kokoutan Eyeshadow C. C refers to this round shape. Again, it would be a heck of big eyeshadow brush, so this would be more of a face brush for people, especially contour and blush if you really want to target it. Also fantastic for highlight. Like you get a really strong packing due to the flatness, and you're really able to buff it out, so you don't end up with too much of a gleam, but you do have like strong light emanating from your face. It's a little bit hard to explain, but see if you can find a flat top brush to apply your highlight, and it's very different from using, say, a tongue-shaped brush to swipe it on. So that was the face and cheek brushes. Moving on to eye brushes. First up, we have the Kokoutan Eyeshadow MLL. So there's two L's after the M. This is quite a big brush for setting base, target powdering, especially around the nose, anywhere. This is another sort of brush I might consider a face brush. Good highlight brush, but this can definitely be used for eyes. With Squirrel and synthetic blend, I believe, but it's just fantastically soft, very flexible. If you turn it on its side, it's a much more reasonable size eyeshadow brush that you can use for blending out stuff. I have several dupes here. Dupes. I couldn't find another Squirrel and synthetic blend. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough, or maybe my eyes just got fatigued. And all of these have the same sort of diamond tapered four sides to them. And this one is in Goat. This is the G5503. Goat. Horse 5503. This one will be a stronger, much stronger brush. So probably not the best for under eye powder if that's what your plan for this brush is, but otherwise it's going to be a very big, strong eye brush. Here. G5503. And then there's a J006H. So this is kind of the difference between them. Again, very minimal difference. The K006H is the closest in shape and size to the Kokoutan MLL. Again, this is in horse, and then this one is slightly longer, so it feels more flexible, like you could use it for under eye powder, but I probably still wouldn't. Setting your eyeshadow, a primer, base, and then going in there. Like, even though it's a really big brush and looks intimidating, if you turn it sideways, it's pretty much the same size as a standard eye blending brush. Going to a slightly softer hair, this is a J021. So because it's goat, it fluffs up a lot more, but you can see that the same general shape DNA is the same. It's just in goat this time. Again, same functions. This one would be good for under eye concealer, I believe. I haven't used horse before for under eye concealer, so I don't know how it performs, but I know like a pretty strong goat large eye brush like this would work really well for under eye concealer. And finally, we have the K006. This is Pine Squirrel. This is going to be the closest you get to the Kokoutan MLL outside of the Kokoutan series. Same size, it's squirrel, same fluffiness, it's soft. This one is just ever bit slight more firm and more resilient. But other than that, if you don't want to spend the money for your Kokoutan, 64 versus 45, the Pine Squirrel brush is a great one to consider. If the density and density is the same, but if the firmness and spring back was a factor, this would probably be a 5 out of 10. This would be a 6.5 out of 10. Next up is the Kokoutan Eyeshadow M. So this one is the medium eye brush, but it's still fairly large, or at least it is for my lids. However, if you turn it this way, you get a nice small brush again due to that diamond taper. I have several brushes here. If you look at so this one is Squirrel and synthetic. Let me check. Just kidding. These were both blue squirrel. So this is blue squirrel. This is blue squirrel. It's pretty much a dead ringer for the 121 in both the S Black series and the S series. So depending on which handle you like better, you can get it with the orange, you can get it with the gold and black, or you can get it with the Kokoutan handle. So these brushes are the same, the Eyeshadow M and the 121 black. If you're looking for a medium eye brush, a true medium eye brush would be the J5523. I pulled this just for a size comparison, so medium versus sort of more medium large, as you can see with the area coverage. However, this one does have a thinner profile, so you can get very nice detail down here, versus this one, not so much. This one, I can use it to line underneath my eyes. This one, not so much, because that point, or lack of a point. Next up, this is the one that's blue squirrel and synthetic mix. This is the Eyeshadow ML. They've kind of got this like wide, it's almost like the tip of your thumb looking brush here. Again, for setting, got that nice tip again if you want to wing out, line underneath the lash line. And then this one has similarities to the J532. This one is goat and surprisingly restrained. So if you prefer a goat brush because you can do cream shadow, you can do concealer with it, you can just work with more textures with it, the 532 is a really fantastic one to have. Of course, it's going to be firmer and spring back more, but this one is actually already pretty firm because of the synthetic mixed into the gray squirrel. So you can see it snaps back very quickly and into the exact shape again, rather than like kind of like leaning over a little bit like squirrel brushes tend to do. This is the B532, and same deal, same size, same shape. I think it's pretty much the same brush head on a different handle. Fancy handle, not fancy handle. If you're okay with not fancy handle, this is the B532. This is a Kokoutan eyeshadow SG. This is bigger than the J004 because someone's going to ask. This is goat and synthetic blended together. The ones that I could find closest to it, and I can't really decide between these two, these are both horse. One of them is a little bigger than the other, but we'll go with the J55 or J133H as the closest dupe because they're both quite firm. In fact, the horse is actually a little bit less firm than the goat to how my finger feels. And I pulled the G55052 because it's a more flexible version of kind of the same idea, this paddle eye brush. And then of course, you have that fine tip again you can really use for detail eye work. Like this is a good all-in-one brush if your eyeshadow does not tend to include a transition color. So you do your lid color, use one side for darkening the outer corners, and use the other side for kind of putting light color down in the corners or underneath, and then use that edge of the dark color again to wrap around underneath the eyes. And then we have one of the favorite brushes. This is one of my favorite brushes. This is the Eyeshadow T. I don't have the infamous SUQM to compare to, but this one is a very nice bullet brush for like really strong blending in really small areas. So this one's great. Even though it's Squirrel and synthetic, I do use it for blending out pencil liner if I really want to like do a big smoky eye. So yeah. It's not quite a pencil brush because it doesn't have a point. That's why I call it a bullet brush. And then if you don't want to get it in a Kokuton handle with the premium, you can get it in the G552A. Same blue squirrel head on a different handle. 62 versus 35. Your choice. If you really want the fancy handle, it is nice. They're very heavy relative to the size. And then we have the eyebrow brush. This is the Kokuton eyebrow. It's made of water badger, and it's good for drawing on with pomade or powder. And then you have it duped exactly in the B015. The B015 and the Kokuton are the exact same width, length, material, everything you could ask for, except price. So that sums it up, except for the last one, the spoolie. It's a spoolie on a nice handle. I'm not sure what else to say about it. Brush it through your brows, put it in some Bioderma, wipe the foundation off your brows, groom it into shape with gel. It's a spoolie brush. So I hope you enjoyed watching that and you found it useful to see what dupes there are in the rest of all the HakuhoDo brushes, and how they compare to the Kokuton line. I was actually surprised by how hard it was to find an exact dupe for most of these brushes. So Kokuton line is actually, to me, the most unique line in the HakuhoDo line. Most of the S brushes can be duped pretty accurately by other brushes in the J, G, B, and K series. So yeah, definitely the most unique. Don't let the fact that a lot of them are blends, a lot of them are goat and synthetic or squirrel and synthetic blends deter you from them, because the synthetic really does add a lot to making it feel more firm and just a lot more usable, because it's less flexible, so you get better blending power, but it doesn't increase the price as much, because if you were to get the same density in the brush at pure goat or pure squirrel, it'd be a much more expensive brush. So thank you for watching. I'll answer comments or answer questions in the chat, and then call it done for today. Yes, I am in the Hakuhodo Torrance shop. You're welcome. I was actually really surprised because I was trying to pull dupes for a bunch of them. I'm like, there's no dupes for any of these. And then that one I found a spot on dupe for, so I'm pretty happy about that. Oh, no, I'm not done with the Kokoutan series yet. Oh, I'm so sorry. I still got all of these, the big face brushes. Oh, I put them up there. It's towards the end of the day. Okay. Let's talk about the Kokuton Finishing LAG brush. This is the angled finishing brush. This is Goat and Synthetic. In comparison, here's the J0301. Here's the S100. The S100 is pure goat. It is more flexible. So this one's the only kind of dupe. I pulled it because I know there were going to be questions. I certainly has questions. This one's softer. It does feel softer and it does feel more flexible. As far as spot-on dupes go, it's the J0301. J0301, that's a straight-on dupe for the finishing LAG Kokuton. And then this brush, of course, covers a huge amount of area. Bronzer, finishing, blush, if you're feeling really adventurous. The other finishing brushes are in this square tip shape. This is the Kokuton Finishing L. And it's pretty much spot on for the S102 or the S102 black, which is what I'm showing you here. Same width, length, size, same functions as well. This one's much softer, I shouldn't say much softer. It does feel much softer and it is more flexible than the goat brush. So let me run through versus this one. And then there's this one. This is the Kokuton Powder M. This one is pretty much the Squirrel synthetic blend version of the Powder MG. The reason why it looks smaller is because goat fluffs up more and Squirrel tends to stay more sleek. So with this one, you get a bit more of a tip and a bit more of a taper, so you get more precision. You could use it for highlight. This one, not really. You could use it for blush. Both are good for blush. Both are good for bronzer. Both are good for powder. This one's going to be a bit more flexible. You can see that wiggle there. So it's going to feel a bit more soft. If you prefer more of a puff feeling, go for the goat. Otherwise, they're the same size. So if you have a not a very small face and you have what would be considered medium features, both these brushes will work for you as both powder brushes and cheek brushes. And then the Powder M is actually the closest I found to the Powder M would be the B002, otherwise known as the K002 before. This one is pure Blue Squirrel, so it's much more airy feeling than the Powder Brush M. The B002 in comparison, I feel like if a stiff wind blew on it, it would just go poof, versus this one does feel like it can stand up to a bit more. So if you want a pure Squirrel version with no synthetic blended in, without a pretty handle, the B002 should be the one you're looking at. Okay, now we are actually done. I'm so sorry about that. So hopefully some of you who are watching the replay kind of stayed past my rambling a little bit and saw the rest of the Kokuton series. Okay. This format that I do is what I wish people would do. Like, this is what I wish could be seen. Granted, if I could do things better, I would edit stuff out so it's more streamlined, but I don't have the time for that. All right. So that seems to be all. Thank you all for watching. I did the S series and the Kokuton series today because they were the most requested when I did a poll on Instagram to see what series people wanted to see most. And I did the eye series in between because there were a lot of fun shapes in there I've never seen before, and I was really blown away by how good their synthetic brushes are. So thank you for watching. Make sure you go check out the S series video, which was the first one I did today, and the 2 I series crammed into one video in the middle. That one's the long one. I'll see you next time, probably in a couple weeks, when I try to tackle the rest of the G series and the J series. So that's something to look forward to. And of course, if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments, and then I'll come back next time and see if I can pull the specific brushes you guys ask about and compare them. And I'll probably put that in the description as well so everybody can see it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.